Hello. This is our fourth lecture on object-oriented programming in Python. So in this lecture, we are going to discuss some problems, and these problems are based on some of the concepts we have discussed in our previous lectures. So let's talk about the first problem. So it says that write a class called product. So we have to construct a class by the name of product, and the class should have fields called name, amount, and price. So these fields are actually attributes of the class holding the product name, the number of items of the product in stock, and the regular price. So name is going to be name of the product. So amount is the number of products we have in our stock, and the price is going to be the price of one item. There should be a method get price. So this class should have one method get underscore price that receives the number of items to be bought and returns the cost of buying that many items. So actually cost varies. If you buy, for example, 10 items, less than 10 items, you get the regular price. But if you buy 10 or more than 10 items, you get the 10% discount. Or if you buy items between 10 and 99, you get 10% discount. And if you buy more than 100 items, you are going to get 20% discount. So there should also be a method called make purchase that receives the number of items to be bought and decreases amount by that much. So we have to keep track of our stock. For that, we have to use this make purchase function, and in order to calculate the regular price, construct this function get underscore price. Let's get started. So the class name is product. We always start a class with constructor function. So the constructor function starts with double underscores, and this function is going to initialize the instances or construct the object of this class. So this is going to have three attributes: name, amount, and price. Name, amount, and price. So let's make them attributes of the class or attributes of the instance that we are going to create from this product class. So self dot name is equal to name, self dot amount is equal to amount, and self dot price is equal to price. Okay, so this constructor function has these three attributes of the instance or attributes of the objects that we are going to create using this class. So the next thing is we have to construct this function get price. So get price is going to receive the number of items to be bought. So this function is going to take one input, and that one input is going to be the number of items to be bought. So let's define this function get underscore price, and remember these functions are defined for these objects, so therefore they always start with the self. These functions are also called instance functions because they always take this argument self. Self always refers to the object created by this class. Okay, so self, and then this is going to take one more input. Let's call it number of items, because we are going to calculate the price of per item. Now we have to use here if condition because we have three options. So if the number of items are less than 10, the price of every item is going to be the regular price, and if the number of items are between 10 and 99, you are going to get 10% discount. If the number of items are more than 100, we are going to get 20% discount. So let's encode this here. So if the number of item is less than 10, then we are going to return that the price is the same as the original price. So self dot price. So this price is the price of one item. Now we can use here else if the number of items is less than 100. In that case, we are going to get 10% discount. So this function is going to return after 10% discount of this price. So 0.9 multiplied by self dot price. So this is going to be price of one item, and else is when the number of items greater than 100. So we don't have to have any condition here. We can simply say that return after 20% discount, this price is going to be 0.8 times the original price, self dot price. So we have constructed this function. So this function is going to give us price according to the number of items to be bought. Now the next thing is, there should also be a method called make purchase that receives the number of items to be bought and decrease amount by that much. So this amount is going to be total number of items available in stock. So this function is going to adjust this number. So this function is going to minus the number of items to be bought from the total number of items available in stock. So we are going to override this variable, or we are going to change this variable using this function. Let's construct a function, make purchase. So we start with def, function name is make purchase. So what arguments we are going to pass to this function? So one argument is going to be self. So the second argument is number of items that we have to buy, and so this function is going to adjust this variable. So we are going to subtract the number of items from the total number of items available in stock. So we are going to return, or this function doesn't have to return anything. The function is just making adjustment to this variable. So we can simply say that self dot amount is equal to self dot amount minus number of items. So there are two functions. One function is going to return a value, and that value is going to be the price of one item if these many number of items have to be bought, and another function is going to make adjustment to the total number of items available in our stock. So this line is going to overwrite this value. So we are going to have a new value, which is the old value minus the number of items sold out. Let's save it and we can try to run it here. So this is the kind of class which can be used to maintain inventory of some article. So let's see how this works here in this interactive window. So let's define an object of this class product here. So I would call that object product1 is equal to product, and this is going to take 3 arguments. So name of the item. So name of the item, you can put any name here. So let's put here sanitizer. It's hard to find these days. And comma, then amount. Somebody is stocking this, then they must have lots of sanitizer available. So let's say there are 100 in the stock. Suppose the price is 500 rupees. Okay, first we have to save it, Control S, and then run it. Okay, you cannot use it unless you run this file. Okay, let's redefine our object. So the object is product1. We can check attributes of this object. So product1 dot name. It says that okay, there is a spelling mistake. Product1 dot name. We get sanitizer, and the price. We get the price is 500. So now you can use these functions to get the price of one item. Okay, so we can say that product1 dot get price of, let's say, if you insert 7, if you want to buy 7 item and then 7 item and you want to see what would be the price of one item, you can just use this function. So the answer is 500. So the price is 500 because we have set here that if the number of items less than 10, then you get the regular price. Now let's put 10 items. You get 450, so you get 10% discount. Similarly, you can check this for let's say you want to buy 120 items, so you get this much discount. Okay, initially you can see that this is what our initialization is. So in our stock there are 100 items initially. So if somebody wants to buy, let's say 20 of them, then we can use this function to adjust the total number of items left in our stock. So product1 dot make purchase. So if you want to buy 20 items, then this function is going to make adjustment in our stock. So if you run this function, nothing is going to happen because the function does not return anything, but function has changed our original value in this amount variable. originally we had 100 items in our stock, but now we have made purchase of 20 items. This function should have made adjustment in this variable accordingly. So you can check that product one dot amount. So we can check what do we have in amount. So the answer is 80. So there are 80 items left. So this was a simple class can be used to manage your stock. Now let's talk about this problem. So this problem says that write a class called password underscore manager. So the class should have a list called old underscore password, and that list contains all old passwords for a given user. The last item of the list is the user's current password, and there should be a method called get underscore password that returns the current password, and a method called set password that sets the user password. The set password method should only change the password if the attempted password is different from all the user passwords. Finally, create a method called isCorrect that receives a string and returns a boolean true or false depending on whether the string is equal to the current password or not. Now let's write code for this problem. So the class name has to be password manager. Class is password manager. I just want to use a capital for the class, so I won't use this convention. So for me, the class password manager has this name, password manager. And again, we have to define constructor function here. So def start with double underscores. So in this case, we are not going to pass any argument to this function except self. Okay, so initially it says that the class should have list called old password. So the class is going to have only one attribute, and this attribute is going to consist of old password of the user. So I'm going to define here self dot old underscore passwords, and this is going to have list of old password. So I'm going to put some dummy passwords here. Let's say our password is a 4-character long, and let me just put some dummy passwords. So let's say there are 4 old password the user has. So, and this is the only attribute our object is going to have. Okay, now it says that the last item of the list is the user's current password. So let's say this is the current password of the user. There should be a method called get password that returns the current password. Okay, now let's first construct this method get password. So define a function, and by the name of get underscore password, and this is going to take just one input self, and what this function is going to return is the current password of the user. And in this list of passwords, this is going to be current password of the user. This is what it is defined here, that the last item in the list is going to be the current password of the user. So this function is going to return current password. So we need to return the last item of this list here. So how do we do that? So we know that we can always get last item of the list by using index -1. So if I do like this, then I'm going to get last item of this list, because the index -1 always corresponds to the last item in the list. Okay, so next function is a method set password that sets the user password. The set password method should only change the password if the attempted password is different from all the user's past passwords. Now let's define a function by the name of set underscore password. So this function is going to take 2 arguments. One is going to be self, and the other argument is going to be new password. So we are going to set this new password. So there are conditions that if new password does not belong to this list of old password, then we are going to set this as new password. But if this password already exists, then we are going to ask user to re-enter the password. So for that, I'm going to use while loop here. So in while loop, I'm going to have this condition that if new password in self dot old underscore passwords. So if new password is in the list of old passwords, then this is going to return true. If this is true, then we are going to ask user to re-enter the password. So input, so you can print message here please enter a different password. So we are going to be out of this while loop as soon as we get a different password. Now, so this new password should be in this list of old password, and it should be the last item of this list. So we need to append this new password to the list of old passwords. So here what I can do is self dot old underscore password dot append, and what I'm going to append here is this new password. So this was the list of old password, and we are going to append this new password in this list, and this password is going to come at the end of this list. Okay, so we are done with the second function, set password, that sets the user password. The set password method should only change the password if the attempted password is different from all the users' past password. Finally, create a method called is_correct that receives a string and returns a boolean true or false depending on whether the string is equal to the current password or not. Now let's define this function is_correct. And this function is going to check whether the given password is correct or not. So remember, the correct password is the last item of this list. So we need to check given password with the last item of this list. So this is going to take self argument and one more argument, and that is going to be password. Let's call it password, or you may call it user password. So if user password is equal to the last item of this list, self dot old password at -1, last item of this list, if the user password is equal to this, then we can return true. In the case of else, we are going to return false. Okay, so we are done coding with this simple problem. So now let's see how it works here. So initially user has these 4 passwords, where this one is the current password and these are the old passwords. Now let's define an object and let's see how we can work with this class. Let's define an object called pass, or you may just call it password, and this is going to be an object of this class password manager. Remember, we have to first save this file and run it, and then we can define object of this class. So password is going to be, so name of my object is password in a short form, and let's define this as an object of this class password manager. Here we don't have to pass any argument because this constructor function only takes self as an argument. There's no other thing here. That's why we can leave these brackets empty. Okay, so we have defined this object. Now let's check. So this object has only one attribute, which is old passwords. You can check what is inside. So password dot old underscore passwords. So we get all the old passwords of the user. Now let's set a new password. So password dot, in order to set a new password, you have to use this function. Okay, let's work with this function one by one in a sequential order. So let's work with this function first. So get password is going to give us the current password of the user. So password dot get underscore password. So if we run this command, we are going to get the last item in this list, because this is a list of all password that user has set before, and these 3 are past password and this one is the current password. Let's see if it works. Okay, so there's a spelling mistake here. It has to be passwords. Okay, just save it and run it again, and then define this object again. Now we can try with this function get password. So you see that we get the last item in this list. So this is our current password, and now we can set a new password. For that we have to use this function set. So set password is going to take this new password input. So here we can put any password. Let's try one of the old passwords in order to see how this works. So let me try this first password here. So TEOI. So it says that please enter a different password. Now if I again enter a password which is already given here, I'll get the same message. It says please enter the different password. Now let me try a different password. So okay, there's an error here. Again, there's a spelling mistake here. This has to be old passwords because this is what we have defined here. Okay, now let's save it and run it again. And again, we need to define object. Now let's try to set a password. So that's what we did before. So this was already there. It's not going to set that password. Let's define a different password. Okay, so now our password has changed and this is going to be our new password. You can check that using the get password command. So here we just have to use get, and get password doesn't take any arguments, so I have to leave this empty. We have set this as our new password, and if you run this you will see that you get the new password. And you can also check the list of old password. This list has been now updated. Let me just do that. Password dot, in order to get this list you have to use this attribute old underscore passwords. We see that this list has been updated and this has become our new password. Now let's try the last function. It says that is correct if user enter a password. This function is going to return true if the password is correct, and this function is going to return false if the password is incorrect. So let's work with this function. So our object is password dot is correct. Okay, let me just fix this here. This was S here. I missed this S at many places, so I have to save it again and run it again. When you run it, we have to repeat all the steps. So this was our object, and we are going to set a new password. Let's set a new password dot set password, and let's set this password which is different from all of them. So this has become our new password. We can check that by using get password command. Get password, so you are going to get this, and similarly you can check the list of old passwords. This has been updated already. The password dot old underscore passwords. So you see that we have got an updated list where this is our current password. Now if you want to use this function to check whether a password entered by the user is correct password or not, we can use this function correct. Now if I enter a wrong password here, it's going to return false. If I enter a correct password, which is this password, it's going to enter true. Let me just enter this, and this is not the correct password. So 436U. So it says that false. This is not the correct password. Let's try this one. HJDU. So when you run this, it returns true. So you see there are a number of websites where you enter your password and they allow you to change your password. And if you enter your password incorrectly, they prompt a message that you have entered an incorrect password. Just re-enter your password. So on those websites you see a nice graphical user interface, and there are buttons to change your password or enter your passwords. So those buttons are attached to functions like these functions. Actually on the back end this kind of code is running for those websites. So these were two simple problems that I wanted to discuss in this lecture. So see you in the next lecture. Thank you.